Elizabeth from England joining us. Farrell. Okay. Wow, look at this. How exciting. Okay, so far we have 15 participants. There.
You mean this isn't the costume contest?
Hey, Jim. I like it.
What kind of group is this?
You win the costume prize. All right. Okay.
Hey, I think I told you I do cowboy action shooting, and I entered the complete, costume, in the winter range competition for Silver Stars,
Wow.
and I was the winner.
Wow. Well, thank you, Jim. Congratulations.
Well,
Okay.
I just said, you know what? Let's do this once in our lives, and what the hell?
Oh, okay. Well, wonderful. Congratulations.
Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Joe, good evening. How are you?
Just fine. Hi, everybody.
Good to see you.
Hi. Hi, everybody. This is Joel Kaplan in Florida, number 313, and I'm delighted to be here.
Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. I think we have 18 so far. We're expecting 35. It's just hitting 7 o'clock right now. And so, Joe, I'm ready whenever you are.
Nice to see everybody's face.
It's great to see everybody's face.
Yeah, we talk online all the time, but very rarely do we get to see your face. So it's nice to see everybody.
Watch parties. We just see you guys typing,
Yeah, that's it. All right, looks like almost everyone is here. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the celebration of Clayton Moore's 106th birthday. Your hosts tonight are Steve Rosinski, Steve from Texas.
Howdy, guys.
And I'm Joe Little from New Jersey. How you doing, guys?
Hi, Joe.
And we're going to spend about the next 30 or so minutes celebrating the life and legend of Clayton Moore, the Lone Ranger. So most of you are aware of Jack Carlton Moore and the legacy he left for us to follow. But for those who are new to the world of the Lone Ranger, let me briefly describe the man for you. Clayton was born Jack Carlton Moore on September 14th, 1914 in Chicago to a successful real estate developer and his socialite wife as the youngest of 3 sons. His father encouraged the boys' athleticism, but Jack was a natural and would spend his summers in Canada working out on the makeshift high bars that he crafted from birch trees with his brother. Excelling in gymnastics and swimming in high school, at 19 he became part of a trapeze act who performed at the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. Clayton also worked as a successful model, served in the Army Air Force, and then embarked on a career as an actor. An actor does not seem to fit Clayton since he lived his life by the creed of the Lone Ranger. As we all know, he was the Lone Ranger, both on and off screen. So today we celebrate the man who demonstrated moral courage, fostered social justice, along with the person who knew him better than any of us, and that would be his daughter, Dawn Moore. Now, by her own admission, Dawn grew up resisting all things cowboy. To the contrary, she pursued a career in luxury retail and was a senior executive with a red carpet jewelry legend like Harry Winston and Mikimoto. And during her 35-year corporate run, she now leads her own marketing agency in Los Angeles. But now she admits the Lone Ranger creed was probably her third parent, and that most of her most important title as of today was #1 fan and the keeper of the flame for her father, Clayton Moore.
And with that, we would like to welcome to the Lone Ranger Fan Club meeting, Dawn Moore. Welcome, Dawn.
Hey, everybody. This is everyone say on Dad's birthday. Who better than Fan Club? Love it.
Absolutely. It's a very special day, and I know you and I met on a very special day about 6 years ago on the centennial anniversary at Warner Brothers. They honored him, and it was such a pleasure meeting you then. And since then, we've actually had a few discussions one of which actually touches on the theme, one of the themes for tonight, which was social justice and moral courage, which were at the core of the Lone Ranger Creed. So I guess our first question is, how do you think that was addressed in the show, and how do you think your dad maybe incorporated it in his life and maybe even after the show?
Essay question. Multi-part question. Remember how much we hated those in school?
Right, exactly.
You know, I think the element of moral courage is just so important today. First of all, it's important. You know, it's timeless. Let's face it, right? And that's why the Lone Ranger character, is timeless. You know, Dad embraced this fictional character because it inspired him to be a better person. You all probably have heard that quote a million times. But to really drill down on why did he latch onto that character so dramatically, and for the rest of his life? I mean, why didn't he play anything else? You know, it was interesting to me as a daughter to understand that about him. So when we talk about moral courage, you know, what does that mean? It's an interesting thing. I think it's the intersection between three things: the willingness to accept ambiguity, the willingness to accept public exposure or failure or ridicule, and the willingness to accept loss of property or reputation, and then taking action anyway. Really, you know, think about what that means. I mean, it's a lot. It's a tall order, right?
Uh-huh.
To accept ambiguity, to accept public failure, and to accept some kind of personal loss. So, you know, I think the Lone Ranger character, obviously, and I can't, to be honest with you, as I've shared with Steve, with you and with Joe before we talked about this, you all are far better experts on the Lone Ranger character than I am. I'm the expert on Dad and Dad's character, and I will tell you that Dad displayed moral courage for sure, and I think that is why he kind of transcended the TV hero into an American folk hero when he went through the issue with the mask and being taken to court and losing that. That moment in his career, and I think that moment in the public's eye, showed who he was as a man.
Uh-huh.
Up until then, he was an actor.
For sure.
So I think that's a perfect example of moral courage, right? So you're facing ambiguity. He launched into that not knowing if he was going to win or lose that fight. He faced public, failure. So again, same thing. And ridicule. And he also chose to face loss of property or reputation. I mean, there were plenty of articles written that spoke to, he doesn't own this character. He thinks he's the Lone Ranger, and on top of that, you know, the idea of losing money, losing income.
Sure.
So that action checks off all those moral courage boxes, right? And then taking action anyway.
Wow. Well, that is a great answer. That was an A+ answer to the essay question.
Right.
Wonderful. You know, a number of the questions we received from our members concerned Jay Silverheels and your dad's friendship with him, both on and off the set, and whether or not Jay had experienced any discrimination, and whether or not your dad had any blowback from being friends with him, if he had to pay any price for treating Jay as an equal and being his friend.
Oh my God, another multi-part question. Okay.
Sure. It covers like 10 people.
Literally, it does. So yeah, a couple things. First of all, Dad wouldn't have cared about blowback from anybody. He didn't give a shit what anybody thought. He literally, and that's part of, right? That's part of having the strength of your convictions.
Right.
So even if he did, he certainly would have stood up for his relationship with Jay or anyone else that someone might have had a problem with. In terms of what was happening on the set, Dad liked to always look on the bright side and not necessarily share stories of negativity. I actually flat out asked him on several occasions if there was any racial tension, not just on that set, but on like Jungle Drums of Africa and some of the other kind of crazy things that he did.
Right.
And he would always kind of say, no, not really. Everybody was a gentleman, and he'd kind of do that. But on the flip side, there is an incredible story that I love sharing, and it speaks to this. So, sure, yes, of course there was, right? One particular day, Dad and Jay had come out of their dressing rooms and were walking onto the set. And one of the grips turned to Jay and said, "How you doing there, Chief?" And Jay, who was a Golden Gloves champion, right? Turned around and decked him, laid the guy out, cold, one hit, cold.
Wow.
And then Dad just stepped over the guy and walked right on and went on to set and did their their bit.
Sounds like a scene from the show.
Yeah, right. Dad absolutely would have supported Jay and did everything. I mean, for him to step up.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
In my mind's eye, this guy lying there in the dark over cables and stuff, right, off set, and Dad in costume just kind of stepping over him. I mean, yeah, Jay had unbelievable dignity and didn't tolerate being treated as anything other than equal. And Dad, there's many stories. And again, my guess is most of you probably have more access and have read more of them than even I have. But I know that in some blog, years ago, I came across a personal remembrance from someone who had been on set. I guess he was a child at the time, but he saw an incident of that where Jay was so tired of the Tonto speak that he finally just didn't. There were no lines for him to remember. He just finally just would go on stage and say, "Yes, go Kimosabi." He would just totally almost dumb it down even more because it was so ridiculous. And I guess the director got mad one day and said, "You need to read the lines the way they're written." And Jay's like, "Those aren't even words. I'm not reading that. And what's the difference? I'm saying what I'm saying." And Dad defended him. And I don't, this was not a story that my father told. This was a story I read in a blog of someone who was on the set as a young man, remembering watching this happen. Dad telling the director, no, this is great. Let it go. Let's go. So interesting.
Wonderful. We have a question from one of our members who's here tonight, Lynn Ann Sims. And Lynn wanted to know how much your dad had input into the scripts, particularly when he would quote Bible verse during an episode, or when he would stand up for minorities, or even say that, one day women will have equal rights. Did he have anything to do with that, or was that just lines that he had to read?
He had zero input in the script, and no one had any input in the script. George Trendle was extremely strict. He wanted those words read as written, and he ruled with an iron glove. So that said, I think what is interesting, when I did a talk last year at the Autry with Leonard Maltin, we ran that clip from The Letter Bride that you had found, Steve, which is so fascinating. I mean, for me, because I will be honest, I've not watched all the series. I know, blasphemy, I'm sorry, but that's just what I'm the daughter, I have to watch all that stuff. But when I watched that, there was a comment from the audience after it ran. First of all, everyone kind of gasped, me included. Leonard, we all were like, oh my God, this is amazing. What an incredible moment, and what an incredibly written moment for this character and in this TV series in that time. But someone in the audience had said, the way your father read those lines, was entirely different almost from all the other, the rest of the performance, not just from that episode. They said that, my God, you could feel it coming from the bottom of his feet, his soul. So to put it into context, I guess he didn't have any input in the actual words that were written. I think when something moved him and touched him, he felt was important. You could see it in the delivery.
Oh, wonderful.
It was very different. It was a very powerfully delivered message in that particular moment.
It was convincing. It did come from the heart. So people could be confused and thinking, my God, that's him saying that right there, you know? Yeah. Wow.
Well,
certainly.
He felt that way in real life.
Wow, that's great. One question was, it wasn't on moral justice, but a number of people had questions about who your dad's friends were. And this, I know Clark Broden had one, member Bob Payne, and William Mayer, about whether or not he hung out with the other cowboys like William Boyd, Roy Rogers, and Gene Autry, whether he knew the other Lone Rangers like Brace Beamer from the radio, or Bob Livingston from the serial, or even John Hart, who replaced him. Was he pals with any of these guys, or?
My mother would constantly complain that he was not pals with the stars. Mm-hmm. He liked to hang out with the Wranglers and the Grips and the stunt guys, and he was a guy's guy, you know. He wasn't interested in the trappings of the star thing, and I think I'm going to say trappings. Yeah, let's face it. There's also probably battling egos with those people hanging out with each other. So did he know them all? Sure, of course he knew them all, and he was working buddies with all of them. Did he go to dinner with them, or did he go to each other's houses? No. What I will say is he was good friends with Pat Buttram, personal friends.
Sure.
Pat, and I don't know how many of you know this, but Pat had a very blue sense of humor. And in the early years of the Golden Boot Awards, Pat founded the Golden Boot Awards, which were out here in Southern California as a fundraiser for the Motion Picture Hospital. And Pat's humor was, and he would have Dad in tears. Dad would be sitting at the table, just hysterical, just gone. Pat was funny. Pat was a hoot. But Dad's friends were, his buddies were the Wranglers and the Grips and the stunt guys. And so I think there was a second part to that question. So did I hang out with those people's children?
Right.
No, for the same, for those reasons. Yeah, no, my friends were my friends from school. That's like all your friends, right?
Sure.
Our friends came from school.
Wonderful. Okay, those are some wonderful questions that people submitted. And back to you, Joe. Do you have something for us?
Yeah, I have a couple questions, Dawn. As a family, how did you celebrate your dad's birthday? Did you have cake and candles? Did you sing? What was it like at his birthday party?
Sometimes he wasn't there. Sometimes he was on the road because his birthday, obviously, now it's beginning of fall. It's really kind of the end of summer, so really still he could be traveling. But if he was home, absolutely. Steve, I think you posted today. I'm pretty sure it was today. This montage of images. I don't know where seriously, where you find these that you find images I have never seen. So yeah, that's
I'm your dad's unofficial historian and publicist. I just love to do it.
Totally. Thank you for that. Now, granted, the pictures that are in our home I have seen because I pretty much was there, but
sure.
Rest of them I haven't seen. Yeah, no, my mother was really great at celebrations. She loved baking. She would bake cakes for all of our birthdays, and Dad's included. And yeah. But would there be a big party? No, he wasn't interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We had an annual Christmas party, which was a big deal. Classic Hollywood Christmas party. You can, if any of you ever watched Mad Men, you know, the sharkskin suits, cigarettes, the cocktails, everyone was dressed to the nines. I mean, it was a production. But that was for Christmas. That wasn't Dad's birthday.
Wonderful. Okay.
All right. Well, Dawn, how do you celebrate his birthday today? I mean, recently. Do you have an annual ritual that you go through, or is it just every day you think of him?
You know, well, when his 100th birthday, you know, or centennial happened in 2014, that really was the first time I kind of looked at that anniversary after his passing as something that needed to be acknowledged. Dad's with me every day. My mother's with me every day. You know, their birthdays or the dates of their passing are not as important to me personally because I think of them all the time. I mean, they're around me. So, yeah, those particular days are, but when there is an opportunity like this, where I can celebrate Dad's birthday meaningfully with other people who want to do the same, that's great fun.
I had a story to relate to you. One of our members of the Lone Ranger fan club's name is Margaret Curry. Now, if you remember, Margaret Curry was Jane Carter in The Squire in 1950. And she's a lifetime member of the Lone Ranger fan club. Well, just after her wedding to her high school sweetheart this year, I interviewed her for the September issue of Silver Bullet newsletter. And during that interview, she confessed that she remembers your dad and Jay taking her aside while they were changing sets and talking to her very loudly so she would not hear the colorful language of the stagehands. She also told me that every single day she remembers your dad and how thoughtful he was to her.
Wow.
I just thought I'd had to tell you that. She's
That's
a special person.
That's a great story.
What a great anecdote.
Yeah. That is great.
Well, that's you know, that's a great story about him protecting children around him.
That's it. That's the way he was.
Yeah. You know, and at this point, I'd like to maybe open it up to questions. I did have some more written questions that was submitted by you, but I see some of your faces here. So what we're going to try to do is, if you want to, there is a button where you can actually raise your hand, and then we'll call on you. And if you have a question that you've already submitted or that you want to ask, if you press that, I'll see you, and then you can unmute yourself and perhaps ask Dawn yourself. I know I see Jacqueline Delvin there. Hi, Jacqueline. You had a written question that you submitted, and I thought it was beautiful. And we appreciate you being part of the Lone Ranger Fan Club. You're probably one of our youngest members, and the new generation of fans of the Lone Ranger in Clayton Moore. And so, did you want to ask Dawn something?
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Here she is. Hi.
Hi, sorry I'm a little shy.
Don't be sorry to be shy. You look fabulous. What's going on in the background there? It's all dark and moody. I love it.
Thank you. What was your most treasurable memory of your father?
You know, I will tell you that my memories of my father were the things that we would do together as friends. My father was my buddy. I was very fortunate that way in that, you know, he didn't treat me as a boy or a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There was no, that's interesting actually, now that I'm just thinking about that. There was kind of no, I wasn't just supposed to be cooking. My mother taught me how to cook. My father took me fishing. You know, we went fishing quite often, and he would teach me how to put the worm on the hook and which flies to cast. And you know, we went camping. You know, again, it was those kinds of intimate moments. And it's a good question, because the other part of that is often fans have asked me over the years, how can you part with your father's things? When I've had auctions over the years of selling various pieces of his memorabilia or his costumes or things. And, from your perspective, you see him as the Lone Ranger. From my perspective, he's the guy that took me fishing. What I have that I will never part with is his fishing equipment. I have the rods and reels and all those things in my garage right here. Those kinds of, his toolbox, super important to me. I use his tools. Those are the tools that I use. So that's my father. Those memories of watching him, tinker with the car or actually build a stone wall planter outside of our house. He did plumbing repairs. I mean, he was a guy. He knew how to do guy stuff. That's my father. So when you ask about treasured memories, that's my memory of my father. That teaching me how to dive in a pool. I mean, he was an incredible swimmer, and obviously from his years as a trapeze artist, there's a great picture. Steve, I'm sure you have it somewhere.
I do have it.
Okay. So, Dad in mid-flight, and his hands and his feet are perfectly pointed.
Mm-hmm.
So he would teach me to dive in the pool, and he'd go, "That's an 8.5. That's an 8 1/4. Give it another 9. That was a 9." But it was. I'm sure they were all sloppy. But I mean, he was a buddy. He was a great friend and a playmate. I'm a big playmate. So that's my memory of my father.
Wow, that's great.
Amazing.
That's a good question. And we're all jealous too of you had that experience with your dad as a Lone Ranger. Something we all probably have wanted.
My mother wasn't jealous because she got the unrewarding job of being the disciplinarian. Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
somebody's always got to be the bad guy, and it wasn't ever going to be my dad. So
Right.
he could kind of swan in and out as my friend,
Sure.
and then the other was the one who had to put lay the hammer down.
How nice is that? And I see a hand raised by Stephen Kirk. Stephen, I think you have met Don before, you and your son CK.
Yeah, we ran into Don at the Autry at the last thing. Although I had a lot less Corona beer going on at the time, so I look more like the old timer in the
Yes.
in the episodes that he dressed up as.
Clayton's disguises, yes.
My question was, we're all fans of your dad and his character, the Lone Ranger. Was he a fan of anybody? Who were his heroes? Did he have any literary heroes or radio shows that he would listen to that he really enjoyed?
He grew up listening to the Lone Ranger on the radio with his father. But he was a fan of, he said quite often, of Ken Maynard and Tom Mix. So he absolutely wanted to be a policeman or a cowboy, and he said that many times. Obviously he got to do both. But so if you look at that, and if you look at who his heroes were in terms of being a policeman or a cowboy, I mean, it is all about altruism and helping others, and stepping in and having values and living by your values. So I think that's in terms of having heroes. It was the people who serve.
Mm-hmm.
And that can-do spirit. So that idea of, so if you look at it, what's a cowboy about? It's I'm honoring your word and finishing what you start, right? And not looking for help someplace else, being able to take care of yourself and those around you. So that is all part of that. So no, good question, Stephen. Thank you.
Thanks. Well,
Thank you for your question too. It was a great question.
Before you wrap up tonight, too, I'm kind of hoping maybe you'll pull that Lone Ranger Creed out of your wallet, because I thought it was great when you read it before, and I don't know if everybody here has had a chance to hear it from your mouth before. So just something I'm going to throw out there, Steve, just in case.
Wonderful. So if Dawn's up for it, whatever she likes to do, I know I got my own personal bookmark from her at the Centennial, which was wonderful, that had the Lone Ranger Creed on it. So we'll not to put Dawn on the spot, but we'll let her decide that.
I'm happy responsibility. It never sounds the way Dad did it, but I'm happy to, of course, do. It's important. So we can wrap up with that.
Sure, that's actually a good way to do it. And I don't see many hands, but what I wanted to do is, I think we have room for one more question, and I didn't get to it before, and I know he's here, Michael, and I hope I pronounced your last name right, Trotashode. Would you like to ask?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful, Michael. I see your question here in front of me you submitted. Would you like to actually ask it in person to Don?
Sure. Don, I've always heard that after the movies, your father pretty much made his living doing his personal appearances. And I was curious if that was ever a family event. Did you ever get to go on the road with him doing those appearances? And what was that like?
I was kind of useless that way. That's a great question. Actually, no one's asked me that before. That's a good question. Yeah, wow. So he would have me go sometimes when it was local, if he was doing something locally. And there was one show in particular that he did. I guess it was like a fair. I was 9, I think, 9 or 10. I'm kind of imagining the images we have of it in the scrapbook. I think it was like a Wild West show, like a Buffalo Bill Wild West show, right? Where you've got cowboys and Indians and horses and a lot of whooping, and I was petrified. Petrified. Way too. I was petrified of the Indians and the noise and the horses. And my father, I remember specifically, was kind of apologizing for me because I didn't want to, I was like hiding behind my mother. And then, as I got older, I must have been, I don't know, willing to be tortured. I went to other events as an older daughter. And once I was in the audience, and in his typical routine would be to he had a list of things that he would always talk about, what Silver ate for breakfast, and so on and so forth, and then he would take questions from the audience. And so he threw me a question, and I didn't know he was talking to me, and I didn't respond, and so someone next to me is going, "He's talking to you." So I went, and I was. So I went. I wasn't very good at any of that. So then, but I will say what I did enjoy, of course, later, and as I was a full-grown adult, more or less, is enjoying watching him being honored. And going to the various award shows and watching people's reaction to him. I think as someone who grew up in the 70s, I'll be perfectly honest, I was not at all interested in the values of the Lone Ranger or anything my father did. I was, in fact, completely wanting to be as contrary to all of that as possible. It was the 70s. It was the years of flag burning and bra burning. And, patriotism was not popular. And I was, coming of age during those years. So I really wasn't interested in most of what he stood for. So getting past that and getting into my adulthood and my life, and then not only watching people's reaction to him in the 80s when he had his renaissance, after he got the mask back, and the award shows started to pour in, and getting his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. All of those things were a huge shift for me in a lot of ways. But here's a really great story that I would like to share with everybody. The biggest shift for me personally came on September 11th, and since we're right around the corner from that, actually, it's also a good time to talk about that. So on September 11th, as I was heading up Harry Winston in Beverly Hills. Harry Winston, for those of you who don't know, are probably the finest jewels in the world. Our average sale price of a necklace was $50,000. I personally sold several multi-million-dollar pieces. So big diamonds, big rubies, sapphires, so on and so forth. So the morning of September 11th, obviously everything was closed all across, the United States. Everyone didn't know what was happening, and of course, businesses were closed. When we went in the next day, the routine for me in that particular job was to open the vault where all the diamonds were, put them on a tray, bring them out, and set up the displays on the storefront, on the Rodeos Drive storefront. So I started to do that as we normally did, and I literally kind of stopped in my tracks, and I thought to myself, this just doesn't feel right. This feels incredibly hollow, and it feels disrespectful. And I honestly don't know what to feel. Now, and it's hard to, I don't know if you all remember what you felt or didn't feel or didn't know what, we still didn't really know what was going on, right? We didn't really know what had happened. I just knew it felt wrong. It felt very hollow. Who cares about multi-million dollars worth of diamonds when all of this is going on? So I did not call my boss in New York to ask for permission, because I'm just not about that. I don't ask for permission. I just thought, this isn't right. But I need to put something in the window, and I can't have no window. We are open for business. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of scrambling in my head thinking, what would be good? Maybe quotes. And don't forget, this is before, the internet was around, but there was no Google. So you couldn't just Google, inspirational quotes. I had to pull these out of my head. I thought, well, let me think of some quotes. So I kind of went through, Churchill and Kennedy and MLK, and I'm thinking, and they were all so trite and they'd been said before. And literally out of the blue, some of the tenants from the Lone Ranger Creed came to me.
Wow.
And I thought, this is actually perfect right now. And I had them written on little cards. Mm-hmm. And this is all happening very quickly, don't forget. We're supposed to be open at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm starting to think about this at 9:20 or something. So I'm having to scramble and figure all this out in a very short period of time. So I chose a couple of the tenants from the Creed, and I put them on these cards, and I put these cards in the windows with no jewelry, with no anything, just the quote. And I had people coming in all day long in tears.
Wow.
Asking, what is that from? But honestly, it doesn't matter. That's what I needed to read. That's what I needed to hear. Uh-huh. Thank you so much. I don't, I'm wandering around in shock. I don't know what to think. Sure. But I'm just out here taking a walk, and I saw this, and I had to come in and thank you and talk to you. Not knowing the connection with my father, and not knowing any of that. And I didn't put the Lone Ranger. I put a tenant from the Creed, and I put Clayton Moore.
Yeah.
That experience told me that the Creed, and so when Joe, you introduced me, and it said that the Creed was basically my third parent, that was the moment when I understood that everything that I had grown up with, and everything my father stood for, and everything that he wanted to be, he imbued in me. Right. It was there. It was there. And it came up when I needed it.
And we would actually love to hear you say that creed. The only thing is that this meeting is running a little low. Would everyone be able to click on the link once this signs out, and maybe we could just come back just to hear you say that? Is that okay? Maybe just wrap it up that way rather than just end cold? Because I think we're coming down to the last minute right now. Would that be good for you, Don?
I'm fine with that. Is everybody's on board? Absolutely, sure.
Yeah, so all you have to do, it's the same link, guys. The whole meeting will just restart over again because this one's about to sign out in just probably about 30 seconds more. And those are my Zoom skills right now, I know. And but I do want to thank you, Dawn, for answering those wonderful questions. Those were fascinating answers. And we're going to see you guys in just probably 20 seconds right back here. Okay? And welcome back, everybody. Just a little brief intermission. It's always good to have an intermission in case anybody wanted to get a drink. or a restroom break. Anybody here? Wonderful. Look at that. See, we're all back.
Anybody who could have gone to the restroom that fast, literally.
Right. Wow.
I'm fast. I'm not that fast.
Well, yeah. I want to thank you for taking your time to address the Lone Ranger fan club. To us, you are Ranger royalty, and everyone I know has always talked highly of you. They don't know you; they just know of you. And but it's a treat for us to have you here, answering our questions. And we want to thank you for that, Dawn.
First of all, thank you. I think it's so amazing that the Lone Ranger character has inspired people to want to continue to talk about the character and follow the character and impersonate the character and embody the character. That's thanks to Fran Stryker. Let's face it. I mean, I don't even really want to give George Trendle credit for that. I want to give Fran Stryker credit for that because he really laid out what the character was about, right? Dad certainly embraced it, and hopefully the story I just shared with you really kind of illustrated how that lives with me. So when we talk about moral courage, it's taking that action when you have a lot to lose. It costs nothing. The value of something is very little if it doesn't cost you something. Is really what I wanted to say about that. Standing up for values is the defining feature of moral courage. Having values is different than living the values. And that's the tough one. Leonard Maltin said something really incredible about Dad in his intro to Dad's book, which was, Dad wanted to live up to these values and these standards, and he said, not only did he do that, he said, but very few people would even try. And that's and yet Dad wanted to try because he wanted to be that better person. So that's why I kind of wanted to touch on the moral courage thing. So thank you for humoring me with that.
Absolutely.
I think it's just really important we should want to be kind. We should want to have character. People identify you as an individual through the values you stand for. So, that speaks volumes, right?
Right.
People identify you as an individual through the values you stand for. In essence, you are your character. You are your character. So I think we know what that means going across the board in everyday life. So,
well, thank you.
On that note, I should know this by heart, but I don't. I believe that to have a friend, a man must be one. That all men are created equal, and that everyone has within himself the power to help make this a better world. That God put the firewood there, but that everyone has to gather and light it himself. I believe in being prepared physically, mentally, and morally to fight when necessary for that which is right. That a man should make the most of what equipment he has, that this government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall live always. That men should live by the rule of what is best for the greatest number. That sooner or later, somewhere, somehow, we must settle with the world and make payment for what we have taken. That all things change but truth, and that truth alone lives on forever. I believe in my Creator, my country, and my fellow man.
Wow. Wow.
And I think what I want to add to that is that it's not gender specific. It's not religion specific. It's not politically specific. It is a position and a creed that is about being a good person. And that is the takeaway, I think, for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I mean, that's a moment for all of us to hear you recite that. And I'm glad Steve asked. Thank you, Steve. That's
Thank you so much.
Wow. And with
By
that,
the
back
way,
to Joe.
Did we say happy birthday?
Oh, we have to say happy birthday. Do we sing it or do we say it? That's true.
You
That's-
sing. You can sing. You can lead the singing. But we definitely say. I mean, we're here to say happy birthday.
We
right,
are.
to somebody that helped embody this for all of us,
Yeah.
certainly, and that's the whole
Happy
purpose.
birthday.
Yay! Happy birthday, Dad!
Happy birthday, Clayton
Happy
Moore.
birthday.
Happy birthday. Wonderful.
Happy birthday.
Happy heavenly birthday. Wonderful.
My thanks to all of you guys for being such great. I mean, just such great fans. I love, I follow you guys. See me comment once in a while. So my thanks to you for having me, and specifically Joe and Steve. You guys worked so hard on this. Oh my God. You worked so hard on this. I want everyone that's attending to know that they put in a lot of hours and a lot of time to make this work, and from a tech standpoint, work smoothly, and it's all beautiful. So thank you so much for all that extra work.
Pleasure. Well, we needed to because we were starting from zero with it. So wonderful.
This is our first time at this. This is our very first time doing this. So
Yes.
that everybody enjoyed it. We have people from London. Hi, Elizabeth from London. We have
Elizabeth from
people
London.
all over the world is joining us tonight. Unfortunately, our president, Lone Ranger Fan Club, could not be with us because of another engagement, but he said to send to you, Dawn, his thanks so much for your undying support of the Lone Ranger Fan Club. We really appreciate it. So with that, adios, Kimasabi.
Thank you.
And thank you for all who have attended
Thank
this
you,
event.
Dawn. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Dawn.
We want to thank all the members of the Lone Ranger Fan Club. And oh, here it is. And we want to wish a very special happy birthday to Clayton Moore. It's in the script. Sorry, it's coming up. We just hadn't scrolled up yet. So, but a very happy birthday to Clayton Moore. And we want to wish you all a good night. And again, thank you so much, Dawn Moore. You have been fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. Is that one that's good?